We're joined by Adam.
Hello, sir. How are we doing, Ross?
How are you doing?
Flying, pal. Flying. Good weekend. Watching boxing, tiny bit of UFC, but obviously the boxing was the belle of the ball, and it went to plan, all things considered. So the form's good, mate. What about yourself? You're holding it down on the hard roads.
Yeah, I'm doing my best, as you know.
Yes. Yes, sir. Always.
uh, Usyk and Fury. Before we go on to that,
Yep.
the headbutt situation. What did you make of it all, Adam?
In one word, disgraceful. I know it's kind of been covered at length by us and all the other outlets. It would not so much if Tyson won, it would make it okay. Nothing will make it okay. Like it was horrendous behavior. I don't care if you were in Saudi, the UK, Timbuktu, doesn't really matter. It's unacceptable everywhere. But the fact that Tyson then went on to lose, I think, not that you can make more out of it, but now there's question marks of, okay, did it affect Tyson mentally in the build up? I thought it did at the time. I think now the fact that he lost as well, you kind of have to say it did. It was just unnecessary behavior by an unnecessary agent in John Fury. So disappointing. I mean, the headbutt was horrendous. I thought John Fury's conduct in the corner was 10 times, not 10 times worse, but I think it affected Tyson way more than the headbutt did, if it affected him at all. Uh, I thought John Fury tried to kind of take over things in the corner, and I think it was just a joke, really. Um, so, yeah, I think I don't know if we'll ever see. I mean, to me, Tyson has max. You never know with Tyson Fury, but I think I think he has probably max two fights left. I think he'll probably take the Usyk rematch if he boxes at all again. Obviously, he'll take it, and then I think if he wins that, there might be a trilogy, but I don't think he does one. I think Usyk would beat him again, and then I think he might have a cash out fight versus AJ at Wembley or somewhere in the UK, and I think that'll probably be it for the big GK. So yeah, mate. Yeah.
Do you think Big John dodged the bullet?
You mean you kind of just getting away mostly with a headbutt?
Getting away with that? Yeah, do you think he dodged the bullet with a law?
I think so. Yeah, I think obviously it would have been treated differently if it were in the UK. Like we saw what happened with Del Boy that time when he shifted the table, and obviously him and David Hay back in the day, and the British Board of Control for all their faults, they have pulled up lads when they've kind of you know got out of the line for want of a better expression. I think he got out of dodge with that. But I think his behaviour this week has kind of summed him up from start to finish. The headbutt proved what many people knew in the background, that he was just a big bully. But I think kind of through the headbutt and then through his antics in the corner, I think it's all about John Fury and his head. And I think he'll obviously never say this. He'll probably never say it behind closed doors, but he'll definitely never say it in front of the camera. But I think he tries to put himself first and he wants the attention. I mean, I'm going to go back and have a look at it, but in the Wilder 3 fight, I remember Sugar Hill give Tyson some very, very basic, but some very good info. I think it was after round 7 or round 8. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I remember hearing it at the time. And I was like, that's good basic advice. And I'm not saying that as a dig. I was like, keeping it simple. The guy's under pressure after he got knocked down twice. And even Tyson after the fight said, big up to Sugar Hill. He gave me some really good advice after the 8th or whenever it was when I was in trouble. So, for as much as Tyson Fury trusts people, it seems like he did trust Sugar Hill. Um, and then obviously this was his toughest test to date. It got rough for him. And then Big John tries to take over in the corner, which I don't think helped at all. He was shouting over Sugar Hill. He was waiting for Sugar Hill to finish, and then he was getting his bit in. His obvious excuse will be, "Oh, it's my son," and this and that. But it's like Sugar Hill's the trainer. I think he might be a wee bit overrated. But even still, he's obviously a qualified trainer. Everyone knows who his uncle was. And I think Big John should have left him at it. And with all that, I don't think Sugar Hill's going to be in the corner for his next fight if he fights again. And I don't think Big John will be anywhere near camp next time. It seemed, man, there were some problems in the camp before the fight, and obviously it's easy to say this when the fight's done now. But anytime Sugar Hill was being interviewed, he was kind of short, and I thought he was kind of passive aggressive at times. I don't think Sugar Hill was happy with what was going on in the background. And if he does stay on, I think it'll be just him and Andy Lee, because Andy Lee actually knows how to handle himself in the corner. So I think Sugar Hill will either be gone altogether, but I think if Sugar Hill does stay on, there's zero chance Big John will be anywhere near the camper build up.
What did you think of Big John's performance in the corner?
Shocking. Shocking. You know, there's an argument to be made that a lot of the work is done before the fight starts. Obviously Terry's talked about this, and even Teddy Atlas. Like, there's the bulk of the work's done before you go in there. But when you're in against a guy as skilled as Usyk and as skilled as a camp as Usyk's camp is, you're going to have to make adjustments during the fight. And I think that Sugar Hill is 1,000 times more qualified to be making those adjustments and getting that into Tyson's ear than Big John. And even if it'd be different if
Big John was shouting, "Maul him," wasn't he?
Yeah, literally. I mean, you could take a fella off the street and he
Maul
would
him,
give
maul him,
advice.
Tice, maul him.
Yeah, and honestly, if Big John was talking over him and he was just trying to calm Tyson down, it wouldn't be okay, but I'd be more on board, because it was like, look, this fella, he's in there with his son. He's known his son all his life. He knows what makes him tick and what makes him not. At least then, if he was trying to calm him down, I'd be like, okay, that's something. But he's just screaming maul him. And yeah, I think it did way, way, way more harm than good. And I think, I know we dig out Big John and whatever. I know it's a bit of fun at times, but I think Big John had a massive, massive negative effect this week, because I think it's the most nervous we've seen Tyson ever. And I think Tyson needed cool heads in his corner. I think Andy Lee is a cool head. I think he knows his craft. And I think he knows I think he knows when to speak and when not in the corner. And he respected Sugar Hill's authority. Whereas Big John was just screaming from the heart and maul him. And yeah, I'm not going to say Big John's the reason he lost the fight. Alexander Usyk, being an all-time great, is the reason they lost the fight. But I don't think Big John helped. I think he just threw fuel on that fire. So I think he said a week to forget, and I think no one will forget it for a long time. So yeah, disgraceful from Big John. I think he'll be in hiding for a long time, and I don't think he'll ever be. For as much as Fury's going to fight, like I said, I only think it'll be 2 fights, but I don't think Big John will be anywhere near it moving forward, and I don't think he should be. So hold your head in shame.
Do you think Big John could, if somebody prods him with wrong question or anything at the moment, do you think he's liable to set about somebody and then regret it down the line?
He might, but we've talked at length about how he's a bully. I think he picks his targets. Like, specifically, the target he picked out of the Usyk camp was a fella that looked like he was just getting out of secondary school after a long day. I know he was an adult, but he was the smallest, youngest looking man. I don't know if Big John would physically freak out at somebody in the British press. Because I think he'd be worried as well that he'd get put back in the dock potentially. So I don't know. I think he'll just avoid media like the plague. I think Big John will be in hiding for a while, because we can say whatever we want about Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury, he is a boxing man, and he's at least smart when it comes to boxing. I think when he looks at this in the cold light of day, he's going to realize, even if he's not looking for excuses, he's like, my dad really, really let me down this week. And he's likely to let me down again, because I don't think Big John handles pressure at all well. And I think maybe that's kind of why it bubbled over. Plus the fact he's a bully and he's a thug and he's just a wrongin'. So yeah, I think Big John will likely go into hiding, mate. I think we might do well to see him for a while.
I mean, how would Big John be able to answer questions on the fight?
You get the usual. I mean, Big John, he's almost like, one of those dolls. You remember the Woody dolls back in the day? You'd pull the string and they'd say they have a couple of wee sayings that they come out with. I think Big John's kind of that. I think if he does kind of talk about the fight and his, because the British media too, nobody will pull him up properly and say, oh, you were a mess in the corner and you shouldn't have said this. So tiptoe around it. And he'll say, my son was taking damage. I was worried about him. It came from the heart. I probably shouldn't have done that. Because Big John said this in the past, he's apologized after flipping the table at Misfits. Oh, my heart got the best of me and I lost my cool. And this is what he'll just say, he lost his cool. And he'll say, I lost my cool headbutting the fella and I lost my head, screaming over Sugar Hill. And he goes, it shouldn't have happened. I'm sorry. And he'll probably apologize. He'll definitely apologize behind closed doors. He'll probably do it in front of the camera because he thinks it might get him back into camp. But I don't think he comes back from this. I don't think he comes back with it. In the British media, Talk Sport, any of them, and I don't think I'll come back from it within the camp. So I think Big John's, he's kind of like Crusher Ben. He's in no man's land at the minute, and I don't see how he gets himself back out of it with any respect.
What did you think about the fight itself, Adam?
Thought it was unbelievable. I know. Well, I was kind of following Terry on Twitter live, and he was just kind of saying that, like, it kind of feels like, not kind of underwhelmed and this and that. And I think he was more speaking kind of towards the circumstances in which, we should have got AJ Wilder back in the day and whatever. But I loved the fight from start to finish. I thought it had a wee bit of everything. I kind of originally said that Fury would have to close the distance to have success. Now, I know if you take that statement in isolation, it's idiotic because Tyson Fury had, what, an 8-inch reach advantage or whatever. So the guy with the long arms technically doesn't have to close the distance. But I thought the way the fight would pan out, I thought Usyk would know that he wasn't fighting on neutral ground, or he did know that. I think he knew that, Turkey and the whole Saudi experience, they were probably pulling for Fury because they wanted AJ Fury as the big crescendo. So I thought Usyk would come out quicker than he usually does. He usually comes out and tries to download the data, and then kind of takes fellas apart when he feels the opportunity. You look at Bellew, you look at Dubois, you look at these fights he's had previously. I thought Usyk, because he knew he'd be on enemy territory, I thought he'd come out quick and he'd try to build up rounds fast. And then I thought that Fury would have to just throw caution to the wind and try and close the distance. And, to quote Big John, he would have to maul him. But the fight didn't kind of play out that way. I had it 3-3 after 6. There was, I think, round 3, you could have had it a draw. You know what I mean? Round 3 was very close. But I had it. I was trying to be as neutral as possible. I'm an Usyk guy, but I had it a 3-3 going into the 7th. But obviously round 6 was a huge round for Tyson. And I was very worried, I'll be honest now, after the end of the 6th round. I saw Usyk going back to the corner, and obviously he took a couple of huge shots, 2 to the body and one uppercut to the dome. And I kind of started getting worried. I thought the dream was kind of slipping away, and I thought everyone talking about Fury being bigger and stronger and stuff, I thought that was kind of coming into play. But Usyk kissed a crucifix, and he just found it within him. And, that's why I kind of put him in the top 10 heavyweights of all time. And I put him pound for pound #1 now. We talked about that last week, where if he did win this, I would put him straight in at #1 pound for pound. But he just found a way. The quote Telly Atlas, he always says, the great ones find a way. And, Usyk went through the gears, and it was just a masterclass from 7 onwards. I thought you could maybe split 12 as well, or it was a very, very close round. But ultimately, I had it 116, 112 to Usyk. Yeah, if you want to give Fury, the 3rd round, that makes it 115, 113. But I don't care. I don't care if you're the biggest Fury fan in the world. I just don't see how you don't have Usyk winning. By at least 2 or 3 points. Obviously the second half of the fight was massively entertaining. I thought the referee did as much as he could to help Fury out. But ultimately the judging was pretty good. Sorry, not pretty good. Like if Usyk doesn't get the knockdown, it's a draw. And I actually had that 50 quid on the draw at 15-1. But it didn't matter. Honestly, I wanted Usyk to win more. And even though, you could say the judging was quite poor because I didn't see the draw, even if Usyk didn't get the knockdown, that 10-8 round, ultimately the right man won, and that's all that matters when the dust settles. So, the ref tried to help him. I think the judges tried to help Fury in parts, but ultimately they give it to the right man. So, justice is done, sir. Justice is done.
Yeah. Did you feel that Usyk had him in ninth and that the referee kind of like propped Fury up and gave him all the time in the world?
He did. I mean, the count was ridiculous. The only thing, there was a lot of confusion at the time where people were saying, "Oh, he gave him a stand and 8 count." Now, when I watch it in real time, I was fully aware that if the ropes, because I don't know why, it's just a coincidence, but anytime I'm watching top rank boxing over here on ESPN, I've seen it happen a couple of times recently, where the ropes keeps a fella up and they give him the count. Now in real time, I thought the ropes did keep Fury up, and even that photo you sent me this morning of him and Big John side by side, I think it looks like the ropes kept him up. So I didn't mind the count at the time, but I thought the count itself was ridiculous. I thought it was way too long. What I had the most problem with at the time watching it, I thought when Usyk was punching him around the ring in the ninth, I thought the referee was getting himself involved too much. Like he was always on the wrong side of the exchanges. I think he got in Usyk's way 2 or 3 times. Um, so I think the count was horrific, and I think the referee's actual positioning in the round physically was very, very poor. But I didn't have a problem with the count at the time.
There were a lot of rabbit punches from Fury on Usyk's back of his head 4 times, and
Yeah,
he never gave Fury one warning, did he?
no, and that was horrific as well. You and I talked.
There were a lot of holding, weren't there?
There was. Like I thought, in the build up, if Fury was to win the fight, he would have to do it in he would have to use all his skills to do it, and some of those skills being the dark arts. I thought the referee let him away with way too much, just in terms of like not giving him warnings. The referee would break them up and just say, "Go at it again." Um, I mean, there was a couple of low blows. I think it was 3 total. I know Usyk has that history. Everyone says he doesn't take body shots well, but they were low. There was one of them that was ridiculously low. There was a lot of holding, and there were a few rabbit punches. I thought the referee could have deducted a point, but given the fact it was undisputed heavyweight fight, I could see why he didn't. And yeah, again, I think everything was in Fury's favor. I'm not saying it was like Canelo-esque. I think Canelo gets the biggest rub of the green in boxing, and he has done for almost 10 years. I don't think it was that bad, but I think the ref and the judges did try and help Fury out. But I didn't realize this until after the time, or until after the fight. If it had finished a draw, the belts would have got fragmented, and there wouldn't have been an undisputed champion. And I think that in itself would have been an absolute travesty. So, yeah, again, on multiple levels, I was super happy the draw didn't come in, even though I had a few quid on it. But yeah, like I say, the right man won, and ultimately that's all that matters, boss.
He nearly did, though, didn't it? The draw, it was very close.
Very close. And if the ref had been any more dodgy, for want of a better term, in round 9, and we didn't get that knockdown, you have a majority draw, and then the IBF gets split up, and then there's no undisputed. Like, even there was talk before this fight that we might see we could potentially see undisputed for AJ and Fury. like in terms of Fury won now and he won the rematch and then he fought AJ. AJ would have IBF, Fury would have the other three and the ring, and then it would be undisputed again. But to me, that wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. Like, this was undisputed. It was only going to happen once. I know there could be the rematch. I get that. And I know the belts will be fragmented, but this was undisputed. It was this fight, and Usyk won. And it means that Usyk is, without question, as it stands today, the greatest of this generation. And I think too, and not to kick Fury when he's down, I think the fact now that he has lost, you have to take his resume and look at it in the cold light of day. And even the Fury lovers and the fanboys have to look at his resume now and say, he got outclassed by Usyk. He had 35, 40 pounds on him. So now we have to look at the rest of his resume, and we can't say anymore, oh, you can only beat what's put in front of you, because he came up against Usyk and he couldn't beat what was put in front of him. And that brings the rest of his wins not into doubt, you know what I mean? But like, if you were cynical before the fight, you can say that Vlad was past his best and he was old. You can say that he got bailed out against McDermott. You can say that, obviously Wilder after the Joe Parker fight. But if you said this before the fight, it was cynical. If he had went in there and puckered Usyk about the place, you can then put that to bed. But now the fact that he has lost, you kind of have to analyze his resume and his behavior in a different way. So, yeah, Usyk's the king. The long live the king for as long as he remains in the sport.
Do you think he handled it all well, Usyk, and that?
Very well. Very, very well. Obviously, this channel, myself, yourself, I'm a huge Usyk fan. I have been since he's been a cruiserweight, and he's always handled himself like a gentleman. And his whole team, for the most part, have. But I think this week it's been no exception. And I think even in the post-fight, him talking about his dad, he's obviously massively emotional and stuff. And it's just hard not to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of relate to him and, just look at him and just say, like, this is just a top man. Take away the boxing. This is just a good human being. His heart's in the right place. He's a family man. He's a religious man. And, he handled himself well in the ring. He handled himself well before. He handled himself well after. And I'm sure he'll handle himself well in whatever happens moving forward, whether the rematch happens or not. I'm kind of conflicted because on one hand, I want him to retire. I just want him to retire perfect. Like, I remember when Marvin Hagler, I didn't remember it like live. I'm just saying, like, looking at it after the fact, Marvin Hagler, a lot of people said he got robbed against Sugar Ray. And, he just said after that, he's like, I'm done with boxing. I've done everything I want to do, even though I'm coming off a loss. He retired to Italy. And, he had a great rest of his life. May he rest in peace. It's very, very different for Usyk because he can retire on top. And, you can count on one hand in boxing how many fellas have retired at the top. I mean, even, the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, he went on for too long. And I don't know what his reasons were. He just wanted to, whether it was money or whether he just wanted to stay in the sport. But it's very, very few guys that get out on top. And Usyk has that opportunity. But then on the other hand, I would love to see him win the rematch and completely put any doubt to bed. So I don't know, mate. I'll support him. Whatever happens moving forward, Usyk's the man. I'm just not sure whether I want him to pack it in or whether I want him to see him take the rematch and win it. What do you want if you could choose one?
Well, first of all, I want that judge who had it 114, 113 to Fury to go get his eyes tested.
Agreed.
But second of all, I want Fury to rematch him. That's what we want. They signed up for it. Why not?
Yeah. No, completely. And I think it's kind of weird because obviously Usyk's the champion now and Fury is the challenger. So if Usyk retires, I mean, they'll always, like, let's run through a couple of scenarios. Let's say Usyk retires. I think what you'll hear for the rest of the time from the Fury camp will be, he was scared. He didn't want to take the rematch. The first fight was super close. He complained about getting hit low and all this. I think there'll always be that narrative from them if Usyk did pack it in, that he was scared to take the rematch. But then On the other hand, Tyson's in a very weird position now where he's a challenger for the first time in 10 years. And how does this affect him mentally? Does he if Tyson walks away, will people say, oh, he was scared of the rematch and stuff? And the one thing we don't know, behind closed doors now, how's Tyson taking this? When he reached the summit of the sport against Klitschko, obviously he had the well-documented mental health problems, and he went on the booze and the other stuff, and he was a madman for however long. And that was after winning and beating the man and Vladimir Klitschko. Now he lost. So how does this affect him mentally? Obviously, he'd be heartbroken. I'm not saying that, but how heartbroken and how much does this affect his confidence going into a rematch? Because if you look at the photo I put up, I mean, it's easy to say it now after the fight has happened, but I thought Fury looked on edge all week. In media, he didn't do the stare down. He wouldn't look at Usyk. Just from top to bottom, I saw a different Tyson Fury than we've ever seen before. So yeah, I don't know the answers. I just wonder how this affects him moving forward, because he's talked so much trash about Usyk, pumped up middleweight, Gabby Tooth, all that. I know he's lost to that man. It's got to be a massively hard pill to swallow. So I'm with you. I hope Fury steps up. I hope he does take the rematch, because we can say what we want about John Fury, small John Fury, the bully, but you have to give Tyson credit, even if you're not a fan. I thought he fought very well, all things considered. Obviously, I had Usyk winning kind of clearly, but I thought Fury did well. I thought he did get help, don't get me wrong, but I thought that trimming he took in the 9th, he came out as fresh as one could get. Like, he's got a chin, and he definitely has heart. Like, so I think you have to give him credit in the ring. I thought he did, for the most part, leave it on the line. Like we've talked about previously, I don't think the corner work helped him. And I think he did have a lot going against him from within his own camp in the corner. But I thought he did put it on the line. And, I thought he did fight well, all things considered. So I'll give him his respect there. Like we talked about, we can't say no, we can't put Usyk up on a pedestal and say, he's top 10 heavyweights of all time and he's pound for pound #1. We can't say that and then say Fury's a scrub for losing to him. In a semi-competitive fight, people are saying now, does this make AJ look better? I think this Fury fight was 10 times more competitive than either AJ fight. So I don't really buy into the narrative that this makes AJ look better. Like, AJ never really had Usyk in trouble. I know he kind of backed him up in round 7 of the second fight, but that 6th round in this fight, Fury-Usyk, Fury had Usyk in trouble. Like, in terms of he was landing big devastating shots, whereas I don't think AJ ever for more than 30 seconds of their fight had Usyk thinking at all. So yeah, I've Usyk #1. I still have Fury a clear #2, and then I've got AJ and the rest of the boys as the rest of the pack. So yeah, let's hope we see a rematch, and let's hope it's a fair matchup on all fronts.
Do you think that Tyson struggled to pull the trigger?
Yes and no. I think he was always going to struggle with the pace that Usyk put on him. And I think through 6 rounds, even though I had it even, I thought he did struggle with that pace. But obviously, rounds 5 and 6, and 6 specifically, Fury had a lot of success. But yeah, I think other fighters, Fury would have kind of put the foot down. But you've seen this in other Usyk fights, like especially in the Dubois one. Like, I'm not saying Dubois quit, but I think Usyk bamboozles you so much between the ears, that he does so much, and there's so many wee things going on in the background that even guys like us wouldn't see, where Fury was just bamboozled. I think Usyk rattles people mentally in the fight so much, where he just does so many small things that it kind of breaks other fighters mentally. And I'm not saying that he broke Fury mentally. What I'm saying is that Fury expended so much energy just trying to keep up with Usyk that I thought once it went through, like, even if the ninth round wasn't a complete trimming, like even if the ninth round was close, I still thought Usyk was pulling away, and I thought Fury just didn't have it in him late to really, put the foot down and do damage like he's done previously. So I think,
by the time caught up with him.
yeah, for sure. And I think it was as much father time as the physical abuse he's put his body through. Like, the alcohol and the drugs have been, documented at length, so we don't need to go into that. But I don't care how fit you are, and not that Fury is, like, obviously, there's a flab in the belly and all the rest. But even if you were a super athlete and you went off the boil and drank and took drugs like that, it would massively affect your engine and your body. Even if you were an Usyk and you did that, not that he ever would. But the fact that he did that, and he's also never kept himself in great shape. Like, I know when he beat Wilder, like, people are like, "Oh, this is a heavyweight champion of the world. This is a physique of the baddest man on the planet," and everyone just has to deal with it. That might have been true on the face of it, but Fury could have kept himself in way, way, way better shape through his career if he was more focused. He's talked about it even when he wasn't drinking and stuff. He'd be a big eater, and he was a drinker before all the crazy stuff. And I just think the way Fury's kept himself over the years and Father Time, they caught up with him. And I think if he was in there against a lesser man, he probably could have got it done. I think even if he was in there against an Anthony Joshua, he probably could have just stuck it out and got through the fight. But when you're in there against an absolute master in the form of Usyk, I think it was just too far a bridge to gap. So, yeah, to answer your question a very long way, I think Father Time and the abuse he's done to himself caught up with him big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing nobody's talked about, at least that I haven't heard anybody talk about, I think when the dust settles and we look at this fight down through the years, 5 years, 10 years, and all the rest, I think the Ngannou fight screwed Fury mentally, big time. And it's easy to say that now that he's lost to Usyk, but I think him getting knocked down by an MMA fighter, I know he didn't take a while of the damage in the fight necessarily, and I had him winning the fight. I know a lot of people said, "Oh, Francis won" and stuff. I didn't see it that way. I had Fury 6-4 or 7-3. Obviously, bar the round that he got knocked down, but I think mentally that screwed with him a lot, because obviously he thought he'd walk in there, he'd have a wee bit of an exhibition, and he'd finish Ngannou when he wanted to. But I don't think Fury's mentally that strong, and I know he has come through a lot. But I think he's relied on his physical stature a lot in his fights, and his ability to just kind of bully people and turn the screw when he wanted to. Whereas I think he went in there, and I think that the world saw that he was human against an MMA fighter. And obviously he didn't do the press conference straight after. I think he was massively embarrassed after the Ngannou fight. And I know he said, Francis is a big puncher and I didn't take it seriously and stuff. But I think that was the start of him mentally crumbling, at least at this super, super, super elite level. Like I said, I think he could have went in there and beat like an AJ or Dubois. But I think that probably would have spurred Usyk on a bit, even though Usyk played it cool, the Ngannou fight. And I think behind closed doors, even when Fury be on his own at night, he's probably like, Jesus, like, how did this happen? I got knocked down by Francis. Yeah, even on my worst night, I probably shouldn't have got knocked down. So, yeah, mate, I think the Ngannou fight screwed with him mentally. And I don't think he'll probably ever say it. But I think it was a big factor behind closed doors.
Yeah. And obviously Usyk, what next for him?
There's only two options for Usyk, in my opinion. He's not a money man, never has been. And even if he was a money man, he's obviously made enough over the last couple of fights to put set him and his family up for a couple of generations. I think he takes the rematch against Fury or he retires. I don't think there's anything else for him to do in the sport. I know there's fights he could take, don't get me wrong. I don't really want to see him and AJ again. As much as Eddie Hearn will tell you that people want to see it, I don't think really anybody wants to see it. He's obviously beat Dubois. Yeah, but then like if you start the cycle again, like people could say, oh, Caballel had a good performance, which he did. But if you fight Caballel, then you have to fight the next guy, the killer from Uzbekistan, and then you start the cycle again. So I want to see him fight Fury in the rematch, or I want to see him retire. I don't really want to see anything else. What do you reckon, mate?
Well, I'm going to ask you, do you think Fury will take the rematch?
Uh I know we have to jump on a part 2 soon, so we can get more into it then. I listened to Frank Warren. I don't know if you heard his ding dong on Talksport this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he said that Fury wants to take it as it stands today. Now, I know Fury could probably change his mind 100 times in an hour. Uh, you know what? Yeah, gun to my head, I think he takes it because in the ring after the fight, there was a soundbite him saying to Turkey, let's get the rematch on, show me the money. He's already lost his O. Um, he's already gone through stuff in this fight that people thought he would never go through. Like, I don't think many people, lots of people do Usyk winning behind closed doors, yourself, myself, Andy, all the rest. But I don't think a lot of people saw Usyk abusing him like he did in round 9. So I think Fury's already kind of crossed that bridge where he lost to Usyk. He had a round where a lot of people thought he should have got stopped. I'm not saying he has nothing to lose, but I think he has way less to lose now going into a rematch than he did taking this fight in the first place. And there's obviously going to be serious dough at play. So I think he takes it because I think he wouldn't want to walk away and people say, oh, you were scared to fight Usyk again. And so, yeah, I think he takes it. I think he takes it. Yes, sir.
Do you think that Joshua will have a part to play in this little scenario?
Ah, if Fury wins a rematch, I think he does. Because if you're to believe anything that's being told in the media now, the IBF is going to get stripped or, they're going to make Usyk vacate. Joshua's going to fight the winner of Hrgovic Dubois for that belt. So, like I said, I don't think really anybody wants to see AJ Usyk again. But I think if Fury did beat Usyk in the rematch and he did pick up those 3 belts, I think you could really sell uh, Fury AJ for all 4 belts. Even though people say it's undisputed again, the undisputed happened on Saturday night, and that's where I'll sit on it. But I think you could sell AJ Fury in the UK for all 4 belts. Absolutely, you could sell it.
Yeah, I think Fury and AJ is still big in it.
It is. Yeah. Still a huge domestic fight. Like even if they are past their best, I know people have kind of compared it to Pac-Man and Mayweather. I think down the weights, fights that happen too late are way different. But I think when you have 2 massive, big lump heavyweights that can spark each other out and do serious damage to each other, I think those fights are easier to sell. Whereas down the weights, people lose stuff and they lose their speed and they lose their balance and their timing and stuff, and it's way more on the show. Whereas I think when it's 2 big British heavyweights, even if they are past their best, put them in there and let's boogie. So yeah, mate, I think even if there's no belts on the line, I still think you could do that at Wembley, and you could sell it out twice. So yeah, it's still a big fight domestically, no doubt.
You want to jump on part 2, mate?
Yes, sir. See you in 1 second.
Yeah. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Please join us on part 2.